for being patient with us. I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order, and we'll start the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So I just wanted to say, our board chair, Ms. McKee, is not with us. She's going to be gone for a few days, so I will be your fearless leader during our work session today. We also have our set of trustees, but we do not have a quorum, so you'll probably notice we do not have action items on the agenda for today. But I am going to really quickly ask if we have any general public comment. Do we have one in person who would like to provide comment? Do we have anybody online?
We do not have public online at the moment. We do have Abby Cole and Janelle Nicholson.
Okay, perfect, thank you. All right, so then with that, we'll go ahead and move on, and I believe we have a really neat presentation to hear.
Thank you so much, trustees, for joining us. Superintendent Wells, Assistant Superintendent Alberts, district leadership, Jim Darcy staff, truly appreciate Jane also as well. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Jill Nyman. I am so incredibly fortunate to be the principal here at Jim Darcy. I'd like to start by drawing your attention to our brochure. First and foremost, I'd like to talk about the theme of the brochure, which also follows the theme of our school year this year here at Jim Darcy, and that's moving mountains. Every year we pick a theme to kind of guide us through. And this year, last year, I solicited suggestions from the staff to kind of get ideas, and this is what I came up with. And I actually flagged what I put into beginning of the year staff about why I chose moving mountains, and it's just worth reading at this point. I think it's important to acknowledge that our theme this year is moving mountains, because acknowledging that jobs and education are monumental, they hold responsibility and challenge. While our tasks may seem insurmountable at times, what we're asking of our Mustangs, our students, is equally daunting. We're growing the hearts and minds of tiny humans. They are the future generations of the world. This moving mountains needs to be the forefront of everything we do. All kids are our kids. This is always true. And so using this theme, we've been able to start our year and guide our practice. At Jim Darcy, our universals are to be safe, be respectful, and try your best. Our students hear this every morning in our morning announcements. We use it when we're supporting students. We use it throughout our building. It is a great kind of umbrella for everything we do here at school. If you would like to turn the page of your brochure, I think difficult to see on the overhead, but the next page you'll see is one team, one mountain. So one of the things that I truly believe makes a school successful is that it takes every single person. It takes our amazing educators, which we have a whole slew of here at Jim Darcy. We have a staff of about 55, but we have 21 classrooms. So we have lots of teachers, we have lots of paraeducators, we have amazing custodians, we have amazing secretaries, and we have amazing lunch lady. It takes all of us. Every single person in this building is connected to kids, and you could step in at any time during the day and you would see that. From our paraeducators sitting in small groups to our teachers, our counselors, our special education teachers, our speech therapists, working with students, to our secretaries dealing with triage after a playground accident. It really takes all of us to make this be successful. And I'm so thrilled. I talk a lot about it, brag a lot about what a positive and connected school we have, every single human, and we live that. It's just true. So one of the things I want to note is we do have 55 staff. We have 21 classrooms. Of our staff, we currently have 10 nationally certified teachers. We have one in addition to that who's awaiting results on board certification, and we have 3 more that are in process this year. So that's a very large amount. We have teachers that are just dedicated to their craft and have taken that extra time and dedication to make that happen. We have 9 highly qualified paraeducators that work diligently with our students, both in structured and unstructured settings. Within that, one of our paraeducators in the 5 years that I've been principal at Jim Darcy was elected Paraeducator of the Year. And Crystal Ferguson, our school counselor this year, has been awarded the Montana School Counselor of the Year. So we have amazing accolades. And again, just a true picture of the dedication. One of the other things that's really cool about Jim Darcy is just that that community culture that is built within. We do have a very cohesive community out here at Jim Darcy, but within our staff, when we counted it out, we've had over 50 students that are either current staff students that are here at Jim Darcy, or students that have gone on, like mine, to be successful adults, or even people who were part of Jim Darcy as kids. So that's a huge amount if you think of it. It's 2 classrooms full of kids. And what's unique about it, other than it's just really cool, it creates such a strong investment in our school and the success of our school. And when we're talking about things, we have a lot of ability to look at it from the parent hat, as well as the educator hat, and provide feedback. And I think that those are great perspectives to have. On the page that says Explorers on the Mountain is the kind of the next on the trifold of your brochure. The Explorers on the Mountain, it really does take collaboration, especially in a school this size, to make things run cohesively. So we have lots of teams here at Jim Darcy. We have an academic leadership team that helps us set goals based on our data and action plans to try to work on that continuous improvement, which we're proud of the academic success we have, and I'll speak to that in a little bit, but also just the collegial conversations that come out of those meetings is very incredible. We have a PACS school leadership team that works on those PACS initiatives. What's really great about that team, when we first rolled out PACS, my first year here, is it was kind of a slow roll when we were going. It was new, and again, we're a large building, but having a team like that where we have representation from every grade level and our specialists really helps keep that momentum going. And we can take information. We meet monthly. We take information out to our groups, and then we can implement it and then come back and have feedback to keep it going. We have a school leadership team for behavior. We talk about behavior in the building, but one of the critical parts of this is that MTSS model, and working on implementing those tier 1 those tier 1 kind of common routines of what our expectations are to help things run cohesively. Behavior and academics work together, right? So having, again, representation that goes out, spreads the information. They talk about it in the 1st grade team, talks about it for the 1st grade level. The 5th grade team talks about it at the 5th grade level, and then we can bring it back, reflect, and decide on next steps. Our Jim Darcy PTO is phenomenal. We have, I think, one of the strongest PTOs around. Our monthly PTO meetings usually have about 24 or more people in attendance, which in these days is a pretty good showing. We have a strong community support, and these are just great leaders that are willing to jump in. We have one big annual fundraiser. We've raised quite a bit of money consistently now. But what I love about our PTO group is they're really looking at focusing on how do we help students, and how do we help this school, and how do we help our community, and they give to all those things. So they give to our teachers to support projects. They give to our community. We do a lot of holiday giving and support. And then they're always looking to support our students. Of course, that comes first. We have Sunshine supporters, so a little Sunshine Fund. They help support our staff and make sure that we acknowledge the celebrations, as well as offer condolences and support where needing. We have an academic, social, emotional learning team, which is our team that gets together weekly to help talk about students that might be challenging, whether it be a referral for special education or just that brainstorming session. My toolbox is empty. What else does the team think I could be trying to help the student improve? And then we have our office care team, and our office care team is made up of our two amazing secretaries, our nurse, our counselor, and myself. Those are our attendance champions who are calling to check on kids who have been gone. Those are the Band-Aids, those are the health room, those are all those things, maybe that first face in the morning who help check in with students. So just a very strong, we have shared leadership throughout the building, and I think it really shows, and there's a lot of ownership in the success of that. If you open your brochure, you'll see this Trailblazers of Tomorrow. So go to the next, there we go. Those are our students, right? Our current population is 455. We are a 4-3 school, so we have 4 classrooms, K1, 2, and we have 3 classrooms at each for 3, 4, 5. Our kindergarten enrollment is a little bit lower than it has been previous years. But overall, as you can see, some of our classrooms are actually pretty darn full. So it is a busy place, right? Every single day. You can see some of our demographics below. We have had an increase even since we printed this brochure. Our McKinney-Vento has gone from 14 to 17, and that is up from this year. And our free and reduced percentage has gone up since last year as well. And I think at this time, because again, I believe it takes all of us, I have asked a couple of staff to share some information as well. I'm not done, but I think this is a great part to introduce Crystal Ferguson, our school counselor, and she's going to talk a little bit about that social emotional piece and some of that intervention support that we give students.
So as you can see on this side here, we're going to get to the cool academics, but I think it's really important to notice that when we're talking whole school, if we don't have behavior supports and systems in place, we don't see academic growth. So of course, we got some academic growth. So I want to kind of talk about what's going on behind the scenes in that behavior, social, emotional learning part that allows all of our teachers and students to shine, right? Like there's lots of parts and pieces. So cool information. We're sitting at about 80% proficiency for behavior over for all of Jim Darcy, right? So how do we get that 80% and what do we do to support that 20% that we're always striving to better improve? And I always say when we're talking big schools, we're talking systems, right? We got to think tier 1 systems. And as it moves down, how do we support every single level and every kid as we go through? And here, one of the main things that we've really focused on in our tier 1 is those MTSS universals. We built our behavior matrix. And with that matrix, if you walk around the building, you'll see that there's posters built that every teacher references. We've built some cool videos. We've done some connections. Paras have come part and came in and gave part of that to create all of those universals that help everybody be on the same page, which then supports students as well. And with that, we built a bunch of flowcharts. Right? Like it's easy to get stuck sometimes. And when we work with flowcharts, it kind of sets the clear example of where that is. So we worked with paras to build playground ones. The nurse and I created them, right? Because we know that more ability for students to be in the classroom, right? Learning and growing, that's the best place for them. And we also learned that if they're going out of the classroom a lot, right? They're not building resiliency. So we really wanted to say, okay, kids need to come down, but what are those boundaries and how does that work? And so we really are working on building resiliency in kids. Another big part, I get to, of course, come in every week and support students, get to do part of that social emotional lessons, work with Second Step quite a bit. And also this year, we've done a lot with some Character Strong and supplemental stuff that's been really cool. So all of those core tier 1s is kind of where we get that 80%, right? And then we start to work down. And then we start to use data, right? Data helps drive us in where we're going. And so through the awesomeness of multiple teachers, we're looking at screeners, we're doing data, we're looking at that data and then categorizing kids based off that. Where are their gaps? Where are their needs? And then we start looking at small groups. Really getting ready right now to do some of those really cool small groups with Character Strong, which really work on filling some of those social emotional needs. And then I love it, right? Because I do it here. We do a cool data-driven program called Run to Learn, which is a cross-lateral movement-based intervention that I run for 20 minutes every day outside in the morning. And it really works on executive functioning and reduction in impulse and high focus, right? And I track the data each week to see if it's helping, and kids love it, and I love it, and it's a great way to start the mornings for a lot of those high impulse, low focus kids. I think that's pretty much all I have to say if you want to come talk about academics.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. So I feel incredibly proud of the strides that we've made academically in my time at Jim Darcy. Thank you for zooming in on that. This is our data for the end of last year, because I think that that's a better snapshot for us to look at for this meeting. This is our attendance data that Gary has on the board right now. Our attendance data is strong. We kind of hang right around that 93 point, close to 94. Our goal this year is 95, and that was part of that establishment of an attendance flow chart. One of the things that we started talking about was, besides just saying to a parent, hey, your child missed X number of days at the end of a trimester, we want to have more supported conversations of what's going on, how can we help you, and how can we help you get to school, and how can we support that. So that was a goal that we added in last year that we haven't had previously. And we have attendance champions, again, in the office who can help start that process. But the other piece is back to those connections. We have such a great teaching staff that also can make those connections, checking in on kids. Our ELA and math data is strong, looking at Acadian's data, looking at next year, but we're always in the business of continuous improvement. I was thrilled at the end of last year to see that not only did our scores look great and comparable to district data, however, we also had high growth and high performance at every grade level in 3, 4, 5, in both ELA and math, which I think is really notable. We are always striving for individual students. We have strong PLC groups that get together weekly and talk about data, talk about beyond just data, talk about what teachers are seeing and what we can be doing. We have both math and ELA win times that are occurring at every grade level, along with some social emotional win thrown in there to help support those needs for that kind of wraparound intervention piece. Yeah, I just feel very strongly. I think our teachers have done a great job. We're in year 3 of Into Reading. We're in year 2 of Eureka. And this group is so amazing. They just took it on with the energy that they take on all things and just hit it really hard, and with such a growth mindset attitude that it's just gone very smoothly. You'd think they've been using those curriculums for years. So I feel great about that. And then I'm going to flip over to the last part of the brochure, which is that building bridges and climbing peaks. This is really our community culture and our family engagement. And we have lots of things on here that are pretty common things throughout the district, but we've highlighted some things that maybe are a little more unique to Jim Darcy. One of them being the state basketball Special Olympics. We are a unified school, so we have that coming up. And again, we do, and I can't make this all happen, right? Nothing can happen with just solely one person. So again, these guys are such a big deal. They jump in and want to help and want to be supportive. So I've asked their great teacher, Brenna Stefanik, because some of these have been around for a really long time, and I've asked her to come speak to a couple of them. So thanks, Brenna.
I'm Brenna Stefanik. I teach third grade. This is year 12 for me, I think. But I guess if we're talking about Jim Darcy traditions, it's probably important to note that there has been or will be a Stefanik at this school by the time my youngest is through for 40 years, continuous. And that's assuming that when she's a 5th grader, I get to retire, which is not going to happen. But some of the things that have been around a really long time, right? We're a big school, and we've tried really, really hard to keep the small school rural ideals and that community. Veterans Day is coming up in a couple weeks. That's our celebration of all the veterans and families that are part of Jim Darcy School. So we have a big assembly. All the kids learn one of the songs that go with the military branches. So by the time they're through 5th grade, they'll know the words to all of them, which is kind of fun. And we have people come in from all over. I think we had one fly in. We've had some surprises of family members coming home from deployment and things like that. Veterans Day is a really big deal here and something that we're so proud of to keep going. I'm using my cheat sheet right here. The next one I think that is a student favorite is Jim Darcy's birthday. I don't know if you can remember the person that your elementary school was named after. Definitely, you probably didn't know their family. Your kids probably didn't run into them at a Carol game or the grocery store and talk about flying military planes or helicopters. So keeping contact with that family has been a really big deal. Every year they bring in cupcakes and they visit every single classroom. And any student here could tell you who Jim Darcy is and what he stands for and what his family's about, and that's pretty cool. Probably my baby in all of this is Ag Day. Every spring we have Agriculture Day. And Shelley Sharp started it 27 years ago. And it started with just 10 sessions. So kids rotate through 10 sessions learning about something agriculture related. We now have 21 sessions where kids learn everything from farm to table and how to grow things and how to brand animals and bees and, you know, you name it, we've had it. The coolest part, I think, is that we have people who have done this for a lot of years, who call every year, whose kids are long past been in Jim Darcy School. We have some that were here as students and now come back as presenters, and that's really cool. So the kids get a whole day of learning about rodeo or animals or fiber arts. Man, what am I missing? All of it. We do all the things. Spring is also the Shelley Sharp Memorial Art Show. The Stepniks are going to creep right up on Shelley Sharp. She did 42 years in 2nd grade and loved the art show. So our tribute to her and our way of helping students remember her is by keeping the art show alive. Each pod now gets to decorate however they choose and show off student art, and all families come in. So I guess that's our way. Those are our traditions, the big ones that you might not see anywhere else, that keep us a little community in a really big school.
So that concludes our brochure. I did just have a flip to my notes. I wanted to thank you again for coming. Something unique about me is that I moved out here 24 years ago. When I moved out here, came in August, said I would like to register my daughter. Believe it or not, at that time said, "Ooh, we're pretty full. We may not be able to get her in." And the secretary, well, we might have a spot. It was 3rd grade. And so I was fortunate enough to have 2 of my daughters go through Jim Darcy, who are now grown and moved out of the house. I also had the gift of getting to teach at Jim Darcy. So I was at Jim Darcy as a teacher for 9 years before becoming a principal and going to Smith. And when I became a principal, I said to former principal Brian Cummings, "I'm becoming a principal because someday I'm going to come back and be the principal here." And he laughed at me. But here I am, and this is my 5th year here, and it really is a gift. And I say these guys are a big deal. I brag about it all the time. Jim Darcy is a very positive and special place, and we're very thrilled to be here. So thank you so much for coming. Do you have questions? Oh, wait, sorry. Staff, do you have anything else you'd like to add? I'm going to do that. I keep talking about what a big deal you are. Anybody? Okay. Do you have questions for me?
Thank you very much for your presentation. It was very informative, and I just love to hear all of the amazing things that are happening here. I think I've talked about it so much. Everyone, I'm sure, knows. Both of my kids also went here with my daughter starting in kindergarten, working all the way up. With the school that we had before this beautiful one was built, we still had that small community with a lot of kids in it, and they also made some room for my kids to join. So a lot of really neat things happening here and continuing to happen here. So I really appreciate the presentation and all of you guys joining us today. And I will open it up. Trustees, have any comments or questions? I have a question. Who do you share your nurse with and how much time do they here?
Yeah, thank you. We do share a nurse with Rossiter, so it's a quick commute and I like that. That's nice on her as well. And so she's with Jim Darcy in the morning and she's at Rossiter in the afternoon. Actually works out really well. Yeah.
First of all, your attendance looks amazing.
Yeah.
And I know 95 is always a kind of a standard that you've already hit, so as we know, they can't learn if they're not here, or they're not gonna learn what we want them to learn at that point. I was also really, you just mentioned that your growth is really high. I know that Teaching and Learning Committee is, this year really going to be looking at growth, you know, across the grade levels and also in the different, tiers of learning. It looks like you guys have, your tier 3 is really small, so there's lots of opportunity to move those yellows and greens and just, yeah, it looks great. So we'll look forward to seeing that growth data as well. This winter we'll be asking for that.
Thank you. And I do think our tier 1 instruction is so strong. We also have an amazing special education team that is here, there, and everywhere in all the classrooms and supporting students. And that includes, you know, our speech therapist is in the pods, our school psychologist is in classrooms and in the pods, and our special education teachers are mostly push-in model, right? So we're supporting students. And then again, that ASAL process of supporting kids and brainstorming needs for interventions along with the win time and the PLCs for just that continuous improvement really comes together and lends itself to success.
Okay, well, thank you very much. We sure appreciate your presentation and everyone joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you. And I also want to give. I want to give credit where credit is due as well. I can come up with lots of information, but the fancy graphics are not my forte, and so very thankful Crystal Ferguson is my Canva expert and created the brochure for us. So thank you again.
Okay, so with that, we'll go ahead and move on to new business. This is going to be an interview for our next trustee candidate, and I believe it is going to be Emily Harris. Sure is. Hello.
Hello.
Just to give a quick rundown of how this will work, this is the same format that we used when we interviewed our 2 other candidates a few days ago. And it will be a set of questions that we have that you were provided before coming here today. And we'll just run through and ask each of the questions. We'll hear your responses. We will be writing and taking notes and all of that sort of thing as we go through. And then we'll give you an opportunity at the end to just give us some extra information and to ask any questions that you have.
That sounds great.
All right.
Thank you.
So we're going to go ahead and get started with the first question. What motivates you to serve as a school trustee, and why is now the right time for you to take on this role?
Sure. First of all, I want to thank Candace for being so flexible with scheduling. I know we went back and forth a lot and then getting sick last week. So thank you to all of you for being very flexible and having me here. And I will say, I went to 4 Georgians and I do not know the birthday of 4 Georgians. So that was a very funny, fun fact to learn about this school and very cool traditions that I bet are very fun to celebrate here. My name is Emily Harris. I'm a Helena native, a public education advocate, and I run a small business here in town, a compliance and consulting firm that helps organizations stay transparent and accountable. So policy, process, and public trust are what I do on a daily basis. I'm here because I believe in showing up, giving back, and always being prepared. I'm also a proud product of Helena Public Schools. Without the teachers, administrators, staff, and board members who shaped my 13 years in this district, I wouldn't be where I am today. I've always believed that public education is the great equalizer, and now feels like the right time to give back to the community that gave me so much. After years of leading a fast-paced professional life, I've made a conscious decision to settle down here in Helena and invest in this place long-term. I'm finally in a position to serve in a new way and not through work that pays the bills, more in a volunteer capacity, and through work that gives back to my hometown. And so that is why I'm here before you today.
All right, thank you. Moving on to question number 2. What do you hope to accomplish as a trustee over the next 9 months?
Over the next 9 months, my top priorities would be to get up to speed quickly, contribute where I can right away, and help strengthen trust and transparency around the district's biggest work, especially the bond projects. I want to help the board and the community stay connected as this bond work moves forward, making sure people understand how and why decisions are being made, what that means for our students and neighborhoods, and exactly how taxpayer dollars are being used. That level of communication and accountability is second nature for me, from my professional background in compliance and public transparency. And I think it's critical for keeping public confidence strong. Beyond that, I'd focus on learning the ins and outs of the board's committees and processes, showing up prepared every time, and finding ways to make myself genuinely useful. This is an exciting moment for Helena Public Schools with new construction and new opportunities, and I'd like to help make sure that that progress stays clear, intentional, and well communicated every step of the way. That's it on that one.
Okay. So our board's work is guided by the 5 pillars: teaching and learning, facilities, culture, budget, and communication. How would you support and contribute to these efforts in these areas?
First of all, I love that the board's work is organized around those 5 pillars. I think it really reflects how interconnected everything is. So when I put together these responses, I really took some time to break it all down, because it represents an opportunity to strengthen both trust and outcomes, I think. So first, teaching and learning. I certainly am not an educator by any means, but I deeply respect and understand the importance of giving our teachers the support and resources they need to do their jobs well. I see the trustees' role as making sure those big picture policy and budget decisions, they keep focus on students, ensuring every learner, no matter their style or background, has access to quality instruction and the support to thrive. With culture, I think culture is the heartbeat of every school, as I think that we've learned here today. It shapes whether kids feel safe and supported, and whether teachers feel valued and want to stay. I'd love to be a part of continuing to build a culture that celebrates both academic and vocational successes, recognizing that not every student learns the same way. And as you will hear in my closing, that comes directly from my own family's experience in this district. Facilities. This is a particularly exciting time for Helena Public Schools. With the passage of the bonds, the next few years will bring new buildings, remodels, and a lot of opportunity. I'd focus on transparency in how those projects are communicated to the public, explaining timelines, costs, and community benefits in very plain language so people stay informed, proud of what's being built, and understand how their tax dollars are being spent. Budget. This is where my professional background comes in most directly. I work every day in compliance, transparency, and accountability, helping organizations handle public dollars responsibly. I know the budget is where policy meets practice, and I bring the same attention to detail here. I'd also love to help make budget information more accessible and digestible to the public. Resources like the Citizens Budget Guide are excellent, but could be shared more widely, for example. And communication. This is the thread that ties it all together. I really believe that if people understand why a decision was made, even if they don't agree with it, they're far more likely to trust the process. The district has made great strides with newsletters, board updates, and even social media engagement. And I'd love to help build on that momentum by thinking creatively about how we can reach people who aren't already plugged in. Altogether, I see my role as a trustee as helping to strengthen the connection between the district and the community, making sure every pillar stands on a foundation of trust, clarity, and a shared commitment to our students and educators.
Thank you for that. So question number 4, in what ways have you contributed, excuse me, have you contributed to Helena Public Schools in the past?
I'd say my contributions come in a few different forms. First, as I mentioned, I'm a product of Helena Schools myself. So much of who I am was shaped by the teachers, staff, and programs here. That experience is what fuels my respect for the district and my desire to give back now. Professionally, through my compliance firm, I've worked closely with candidates and organizations across Montana that intersect with public education regularly, from nonprofits and advocacy groups to campaigns focused on supporting strong schools and communities. That work has given me a deep understanding of how policy, funding, and public trust all connect. And I think that perspective translates directly to being an effective trustee and community leader. Personally, I've tried to stay involved as a citizen and as a voter, showing up to meetings when big decisions were on the table, following along with board updates, and staying engaged in the district's progress, especially around the budget and bond issues. I care deeply about how these choices affect students, teachers, and families, not just as a professional, but as somebody who calls Helena home. And most recently, I did a short stint as a substitute teacher last school year, which was quite the experience. And it was a very short stint. That's it. I definitely gave a lot of credit to teachers before, give them even more credit now. It was tough, really tough.
All right, well then question 5, what is your understanding of the role and responsibilities of a school trustee?
Yeah, my understanding, and we certainly can have a conversation about this, so correct me if I'm wrong here, but when I was putting this together, this is my understanding. Trustees are responsible for setting the district's vision, approving policy, supervising the superintendent, and adopting the budget, not for running the day-to-day operations, which falls under the superintendent who runs the district. And the board's job is to provide oversight, accountability, and direction. Trustees are also stewards of public trust and taxpayer dollars. At a high level, state funding is primarily per student, A and B, while local levies cover operations and bonds fund new construction or major improvements. The general fund holds most of the district's money, and most of that supports educators' salaries and benefits. I think one of the most important responsibilities, especially right now in Montana, is protecting local control, making sure that decisions about Helena schools are made here by people who know this community and understand our students. There's a lot happening at the state level that can impact how local boards operate. So I feel it's important to keep that local voice strong. Another piece is public engagement and transparency, which is always a challenge, I would imagine. Not because people don't care, but because it's hard to reach them effectively. The district is already doing some great things. Superintendent Waltz's newsletters to parents and guardians are consistent and informative. Trustees' Instagram posts are very fun and accessible way to connect with people who might not otherwise pay attention to board on that by finding ways to reach a wider audience and simplify complex topics, especially around the budget. The Citizen Budget Guide, for example, is a fantastic resource, but I bet most people in Helena haven't seen it. Finding creative ways to circulate that, whether through social media posts, community events, or short video explainers could go a long way in helping folks feel more connected to how decisions are made and how their tax dollars are being spent. And I completely understand that for homeowners, seeing rising property taxes, reassessments, and new school bonds all at once can feel overwhelming and even unfair. Part of a trustee's job, as I understand it, is to help explain the why behind the how the state's funding structure works, where local dollars actually go, how those investments ultimately support students and teachers, and why that matters for our community. So for me, the trustee role is generally about three things: setting direction and policy, overseeing the budget responsibly, and building trust through transparency and communication, and always keeping students and educators at the center of all of these decisions.
All right, so the number 6, is there anything that you want to share with us? Or do you have any questions?
Sure. I will start with one last thing that I will share with you guys, and then I do have a question that we can discuss. So as I mentioned in my opening, I'm a very proud product of Helena Public Schools, and so is my younger brother. But our experiences in this district were at opposite ends of the spectrum. I still remember every principal, every teacher, and most of my administrators and staff from all 3 schools that I went to. School was my happy place where I felt safe, supported, challenged, and connected. I wasn't an exceptional student by any means, but I had exceptional relationships. And that's thanks to the adults in this district, my teachers, my principals, and the trustees who made decisions that shaped those experiences. My brother's experience was very different. There were many moments in those last few years of high school when my family wasn't sure he'd graduate. He struggled, not because he wasn't smart, but because school didn't fit for the way he learned. What made the difference for him were his vocational classes, welding, carpentry, and a handful of teachers and administrators who refused to give up on him. They found ways to meet him where he was, and because of that, he graduated. I honestly don't know where he'd be today if it weren't for those people and those programs in this district. To be a part of a district that can support both of those stories, a student who thrived in traditional classrooms and a student who barely made it, but did so thanks to teachers and administrators going out of their way to care, is something really special, a coexisting of experiences. It's something we shouldn't take for granted. And it's something that each of us should fight to protect. And that is why I want to serve alongside each of you, to make sure that every student in this district, no matter how they learn or what their path looks like, has the opportunity to succeed in their own way. I do have a question.
Okay, we're ready.
So I did watch the 2 other interviews. And so I understand the time commitment, which you guys did discuss. And so I know you guys talked about sometimes 20 hours a week, and especially with the bond activities on the table. And so I recognize that, and it came through very clearly in the other interviews, and I'm fully prepared to commit the time and energy needed to do the job well. And I hope it came through that I come very prepared. But I really want to thank you for your time and the thought that you've put into this process. But given the district's current priorities, I am curious about committees and projects where you think additional perspectives and an extra set of hands would be especially helpful, especially when it comes to the committees, as I was looking through the various different committees that you all serve on, and thinking where time may be an asset, but then also thinking about the conversation that you had in other interviews of putting somebody on a committee that they may not have experience in, and they may thrive, and what your expectations are there, and I guess where you're seeing you need the most help and the most experience, and what you're looking for.
Yeah, that's a really great question. I think that's very fair too. Not to speak for everyone on the board, but just in my opinions, I mean, we have a wide variety of committees. And so I think that there's a lot of different ways you could go with experience, with interest. I think most of us have really just found that we are kind of magnetized to something that's really interesting to us. I know I didn't really bring any policy experience to the table, but it's been something that I've really enjoyed. I've really enjoyed learning and preparing for those meetings. And I know that Trustee Armstrong had mentioned that her budgeting background may have not been very strong there, but she seems to really be driven through that committee and is doing some great work there. So I think that we all have a really stronghold in each of those committees. I think we're all contributing really well. So not necessarily that you go and participate in a committee that you have a lot of experience in. I think for us, it's probably been more important that we're passionate about that particular area as far as being a leader in those committees as well.
Sure.
I don't know, what do you guys think?
I would say mimic some of that. A lot of it has to do with how much you care and how passionate you feel about the district. Also, take some courage, you know, that it, like you say, it's complex. Sometimes, like, for instance, we had a huge budget crunch. The trustees and the administration didn't feel like it was time to make a major change in the budget. So we had to, we didn't have to, we chose to reduce programs, which was really hard for everyone.
Yeah.
And then sticking with that and making the next hard decision that could bring those back.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of just doing what you think is right. And we probably, you come with, sounds like some really good communication and that sort of thing. But a lot of us have been able to contribute in many ways that we didn't think we would.
Sure.
And so I think you just have to, show up, be ready, do the right thing, sometimes be really courageous, and we don't always make all the right decisions, but we always try to. So
Learning about yourself along
Exactly.
the way.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
What is the difference, if any, between the elementary and high school trustees?
So we can, I just know that Trustee Satry, it sounded like she wanted to contribute to that.
Oh, sure. Please do. Yes.
Sure. I would say that also there's a number of us and a number of committees, and so we kind of are open to taking turns on the committees too. So it isn't only that you're passionate about it, maybe really passionate about a committee, but there are a couple of other people who are coming on.
Sure.
So, being flexible, I think, is also part of that committee assignment, alignment,
Sure.
and experience. And then there are ad hoc committees that come up. So sometimes your time and energy are with some frequency, especially. So whether it's when facilities, the master planning was going on.
Yeah.
There were, opportunities to participate in a number of different ways there, as well as with bonds, and we have some other ad hoc things.
Does it-
So,
Does it depend on how much time you have to commit in terms of how many committees you are a part of?
I mean, there's also sort of an onboarding experience. I think
Sure.
we probably all had that where you began with maybe one and then might come on to.
Sure.
two.
I don't know, I got started with 3.
I got two.
It's up to the board.
depends.
Yeah, it's up to the board chair to set up the
Sure,
committees.
sure.
And usually
But
usually
informally, I would say informally, you have a lot of control of like what you want to participate in. That might not be an essential thing, and I think that one thing we could use more help with is like attending parent council meetings, for
Mhm.
example. We try to get to some of those, right? But it's not a requirement. There's a lot of things like that as a trustee that you could do, or like supporting administration at like their blueprints and bonds, right? Things like that, we try to share the load of those things that are not required, based on our commitments, our other lives at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, please go ahead.
I apologize. Just curious about the split, if any, between the elementary and high school trustee differentiation there.
Mhm. Yeah, so I think at this point, everyone knows I'm sitting on the high school, school board, not necessarily the elementary, because of the group that I'm representing out in the West Valley. But both districts contribute equally with the exception of specific budget decisions.
Sure.
So we have our separate budgets, those were worked differently and separately. But when we're speaking to like policies, the bond work, a lot of that is just kind of I don't want to say generalized, but maybe across the board and affects everybody. So I'm lucky enough to get to have the opportunity to contribute pretty much to everything that has happened on the agenda and happened in the background. So I'm really grateful for that. And it's not divisive. We are one board. And I think that we make decisions in that
I
capacity.
think the only time you recognize that you don't is when you don't vote on a specific
Right.
elementary, right? That's the only separation we ever see
Yeah.
with you and the high school district.
And would that just be about the elementary budget?
It's usually just around the budget. Or things that are specific to a school, like there's
Sure.
one thing, like
Sure.
we have to repair a roof, and so we need to approve the budget,
Sure.
or, something that goes along with that. But kind of exploring, or I guess getting to know this role first starting out, it was really hard for everyone to kind of understand where things sit, what bucket goes where, and stuff like that. So just as we've gone through the process, and have worked and had that experience, it's, I think it's equal contribution there.
Excellent. My questions, happy to answer any questions that you guys have, if any.
Right, yeah, I think we're good. Thank you very, very
Thank you,
much.
guys. I really
We
appreciate it.
Appreciate your coming in and joining us today and sharing a little bit about yourself. Okay, so then with that, we are moving on. Can I ask, do we have any superintendent comments tonight?
There will be a series of more asks. So I'll ask question, share the load. So there'll be another series for Capital High School was screened today. We'll go back out for the interviews next Tuesday, but then we'll start the process with Kessler. And then we'll turn around and run right back up to Helena High for the GCCM interviews. And so we'll be asking, again, when you sit on those committees, we'll need to make sure that you can be there for the screening and the interview. Both, there'll be a member of 7 of us. We'll do that for Helena High, Capital, and back to Kessler.
Timeline on
Yeah,
when?
We do. We talked about that this afternoon, right before we got here. That schedule is being built. I think we have it fleshed out. I'll post it later. I want to have all the professional services on board by no later than January. So that's coming out as fast with a winter break and a Thanksgiving break.
That'll be interesting. Okay, do we have any board comments?
I was gonna say this earlier and I forgot. It's amazing that this staff has 10 nationally certified teachers, so highly qualified. So, be proud of that.
With 4 more, like almost in the pipeline and one just on the verge. That's amazing. 14. Yeah. Any other board comments? Okay.
Last one. I would say that Ms. Nyman's super humble, right? So all credit, you heard a lot about her staff, what her staff's doing. That staff doesn't get that unless you have someone that's fostering that relationship. And so it's interesting because I also am able to spend sometimes in the same area during the Friday through Sunday during the summer. Moving mountains makes sense for Miss Nyman because she's on most of the mountains down in Megalon. That you haven't seen, maybe some of the best cutthroat trout I've ever seen anywhere was caught by her. She so totally makes her husband jealous. I haven't really decided if he's catching them and she's posing with him, but I actually think she's the fisherman of the family. So, well done. Thank you for your work here. Jill.
Thank you.
Okay, we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.